Good morning, friends. Hello, hello. How are you this morning? Hope you're doing all right. Good day to you. Hello. This cloudy day. Hope you're doing great. It is still very much spring out there, but we are waiting for the sunshine. Hope wherever you are, it is good and whole and great, and that you're getting some rays of sunshine in it this Wednesday morning. Good morning, good morning. Good morning, gang. Doing great on this day. All right, friends. All right, let's get going this morning. It is the 26th day of March here at 11:11, and I am glad that you're with us and a part of this journey. It is another gray but spring-like day out there. So, welcome wherever you may be in your journey. So, Bible begins this way. It begins like this. It says, "In the beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth was formless void, and darkness covered the face of the deep, while a wind from God swept over the face of the waters. And then God said, 'Let there be light,' and there was light. And God saw the light was good, and God separated the light from the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning the first day." This invitation to light, well, it's very different than every other creation story that you will find in humanity. In fact, there there's a guy who came up with this, and I made an observation, David Gornosky, which I thought was just brilliant, and it was this. It was that this creation story is the only creation story of all the creation stories out there, the Buddhist creation story, all the other ones out there. This is it that doesn't begin with violence. That there is no kind of the Enuma Elish with the great powers, the great monsters being subdued, all those things. None of that is present in this story. That the creation story that we reference actually doesn't have any monsters in it. Well, but the thing is that's not completely true, because we're still contending with this thing called the deep in the creation story. So, what's the deep? So the deep was, and the Babylonians understood this. The people who were hearing this, they understood this. They didn't. It didn't have to be explained to them because they knew this. When you heard the idea of the deep, what you knew is that's where the monsters were. That the monsters are in the deep, just in the same way we do. If you go to the beach and you swim in the deep water, you realize you're kind of looking around for where's that shark coming at me. We know inherently it's deep within us that there is that somewhere in the deep there is a monster. And this translates to our life. This isn't a notional thing. This translates to our lived experience every day. I have a friend that came home on a Wednesday, and his wife said, I'm going to stay with a friend. By Saturday, she had returned to get some of her things, and asked the house be empty when she did, that my friend not be there. And then, and by a week later, she's filed for divorce. Now he is devastated. He's devastated by this, and because he thought he was in a good marriage. Like he thought the relationship was great. Like he thought things were good in his relationship. He had no idea this was coming. When we talk about the deep, we talk about the monsters that dwell there, that can come for us at any time. And but the creation story, our story, is not a story that has in it these this notion of the deep, but only that they dwell there. Only that we know they're down there. But that the creation story brings us what? It brings us light and goodness. It gives us light and tov. And that's what the Spirit gives us. The Hebrew word for good is tov. It's not just like a qualitative thing, like where like, oh, that's a nice quality, like you have, like that's a nice handbag, like that's good. But it is in essence, it is a completeness. It is a wholeness. It is like sitting at Thanksgiving dinner when everything goes perfect and you're held in the bosom of family and you're held and your belly's full and everything. It's a rightness with the world. That is the promise of creation. That's where it begins. Before we get Jesus, before we get everything else, it begins with this notion of tov, and that deep down, dwelling far away, are the chaos monsters. Now they rise up. We find plenty of monsters throughout Bible, and in fact, the last chapters of Bible are all about contending with the beast, right? Like that is actually in there. The great monster rises from the sea. Well, why does it rise from the sea? Because in creation, in its beginning, we know that they're down there in the deep. And whether it's a medical diagnosis where all of a sudden you decide that your body has betrayed you, whether it's a relational loss that you all of a sudden, the things that the way you thought they were no longer are, that we have to contend with the deep. And I think the world actually right now is more, there's this great image from Revelation where it says then the sea was no more, the sea boiled away. Well, I feel like we're kind of in the sea boiling sort of stage. I'm not saying we're in the end times. I'm not saying go get your, go get ready for the end times. No, don't hear what I'm not saying. But this image of like kind of the things that are masked are kind of falling away. Like I think we're starting to see some of that. And there's goodness and beauty in that. That's not necessarily wrong. But what's the antidote to that? What's the invitation to it? And I think it's really this invitation to light and tov. That this invitation, and then there was light, and it was good. This idea that we can understand, that we can know that things in our life will change. Things in our life will change radically, and things in our life can break radically. And yet there is still goodness. There is still light. There's still illumination, and there's still tov. There's still goodness in the world. And that doesn't always equate to a feeling state. Don't hear that. Like, I'm not saying like, oh, and you should just have a warm, fuzzy, chocolatey feeling all the time. No. This life is for all the fullness of experience, great heartbreak and great joy and all the things in between. However, there is this way in which we open ourselves to this, and what kind of at the other end of the Bible it talks about what that looks like is this call to endurance and faith of the saints. That yeah, there might be a monster dwelling down there, but the monster doesn't win. Yeah, there might be a loss of a relationship. There might be a loss of physical capability. There might be a loss of a job. There might be monsters that will rise up out of nowhere that you saw them and take a bite out of you. That absolutely is possible. We will confront the beast through the story, but what is not in that, what is not born of this, and this is again. No other creation story in all of humanity has this. Other creation stories are all about subduing the beast, or breaking the beast apart, or some kind of some kind of encounter with the beast. For us, the creation story is light and goodness. And I think it invites us to how to contend with the beasts of our life. Is that we're to have, as the Bible says, the call to endurance and the faith of the saints. The way that God calls us to confront the beast is not through kind of hiding out. It's not through even ignoring that it's there, but to dwell in the light of our being wherever we can find it. And that so many of the great the great writers are criticized in some ways, whether they're the Tolkien's or the C.S. Lewis's or the G.K. Chesterton. They all wrote about, at some level or another, they all wrote stories about heroes and monsters, and they were criticized for this. They were criticized. Lewis particularly, Tolkien particularly, the Lord of the Rings guy, the Narnia guy. These they were both serious theologians, and they had serious apologetics for they were serious, and they were kind of serious men in many ways in terms of their thought and their advanced kind of understanding of how God works in the world. And they they spent their time on these fantastic stories that told us about the light overcoming the darkness, the light subduing the beast. And they were criticized for this. And one of the Lewis said it this way when he faced this criticism. He said, "Someday you all will be old enough again to start reading fairy tales again. Someday you will be old enough to start reading fairy tales again." And I love this notion. I love that notion because I think it invites what I call the logos. It invites us into the really real. You know, you go listen to any news program and it will have you afraid and scared and hiding under the table. It will showcase any number of beasts out there. Go listen, go talk to somebody you disagree with. They'll be showcasing any number of beasts out there, and they'll have googly eyes and they'll have all kinds of things you can be scared of, and all manner of ways they're breaking the world. And the beast is a showboat, man. And it'll give you all kinds of things, but it's not reality. It's not reality. What is reality is light and tov. And that doesn't mean my friend who lost it, whose marriage came apart, isn't real. Of course it's real. Of course his heartbreak is real. Of course his loss is real. Of course the breaking of shalom in the world is real. But it's not the foundation of reality. It's not the thing that permitted even his covenantal relationship, even if it's broken, to stand upon. And that what actually gives us the access to those is our ability to imagine other than we are, and that imagination, that storytelling, that is actually the enter into the overcoming of the deep itself. And so when Lewis, in his cheeky way, says someday you will be old enough to start reading fairy tales again, he's not being snide, or he's not being snarky. Because, oh, by the way, Lewis was a man who was late in life, fell in love with a woman of his dreams, and who died a few years later from cancer. And he walked her through that whole journey. And he chronicles his grief in the course of it. And he understands, though, that even in the midst of grief, even in the midst of the broken, even in the midst of his confrontation with monsters, what is really real, what is really true, and what is really the foundation of our reality is light and tov, light and goodness, truth and wisdom and charity and grace and compassion. That these are not notional ideas, but they are actually why atoms stick together and make creation. They are why the world sings the songs that it does. It's why when you walk outside and the birds sing in the morning, it is what they sing for. We have to contend with the deep. We have to contend with the monsters that are below. We have to contend with kind of the faceless brokenness of our lives sometimes. But let us never give way to the idea that any of that is born out of violence or is born out of God's out of the breaking of the world, because at the foundation and the beginning of the world is goodness and light and tov, joy and wonder and being, which subdues the beasts of the deep. All right, friends, that's my hope for you today. Peace and grace to you. I just want to see who kind of popped in. Hey, good morning, Vicky. Good morning, Cecile. Glad you're here. Marianne, good morning to you. Glad you're here. Sharon, hi, how are you? I saw your forsythias. I love it. It was one of my favorite thing to do was to force some forsythias in springtime. Karen, good morning. Vicky, oh, you're at the gym. Awesome. Good. Good morning, everybody. Peace and grace to you all, and we'll pick it up tomorrow with another 11:11.